bonus, not a normal episode.
Remake, rewind.
Thank you for listening to another Boners episode of Remake Rewind. We decided that with Boners. I'm Mike as always. I've got Alex with me. What's up, Alex?
I'm still Alex. I usually am.
You usually are.
Yeah.
But we decided that
Sometimes I'm
really
Mephisto.
with WandaVision having a couple episodes out and us having a bonus episode or a Patreon exclusive episode on Age of Ultron and a couple other little things, we thought we would talk about, just the Scarlet Witch in the MCU for a few minutes and just throw out a little extra episode because we like you guys. So we just kind of wanted to talk about Scarlet Witch and kind of her impact in the MCU and why WandaVision is kind of important. So we just want to spend a few minutes on that and just give you some free content because we're cool like that.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
So Scarlet Witch, she's a big deal in the MCU. Like, she is a catalyst for a lot of stuff. And, obviously being a big catalyst for Phase 4, she's the first part of Phase 4. So I just kind of wanted to talk to you. Like, how do you feel about her portrayal over the last, 5-6 years?
I like the character. I like Elizabeth Olsen. I think you're right. I think she is a major character. And that she's tied into a lot of the villains and the major events in an intimate way. But I feel like we don't really know a whole lot about the character. And even in in Infinity War, she's sort of, she's not doing very much with her character so much as she's a prop for, she's kind of Vision's girlfriend, or she is the team member that's under house arrest or whatever. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah,
We
no,
never
absolutely.
really delved into her character, and it's not. I wouldn't say that she's underwritten, but she's not overwritten for sure.
I think the issue is they just made her so powerful that they don't know what to do with her. So
Right, and that's the other thing. She's so powerful.
And her powers change drastically in the way they,
Like her
characterize her changes drastically. Yeah. So in Age of Ultron, her first entrance into the franchise, she single-handedly takes out, 75% of the Avengers by herself with mind altering powers. She could basically control people's minds or make them see their biggest fear and basically cripple them. Plus she has her telekinesis, and she also has laser blasts that can destroy a robot in a single shot. And so that's what you get in the first movie. And then her next appearance is Civil War, correct?
Yeah.
So in Civil War, she's she's a huge catalyst. She's what ultimately causes all the events of Civil War to unfold. We already had, Sokovia. We already had New York. We already had Washington, D.C. But she accidentally kills a bunch of Wakandans in whatever country they were in. I don't remember where exactly they were. But she accidentally kills a couple Wakandans because she takes a bomb from Yeah, thank you. But they go to capture Crossbones, and he shoots a bomb, or he is a bomb. He's like a suicide
Did you say
bomb.
Captain Crossbones?
Just Crossbones.
They said Captain Crossbones.
Did I say? Yeah, he was fighting Captain America, and then he was going to suicide bomb Captain America, and Scarlet Witch uses her powers and throws him up into a building and kills a bunch of innocent people, which is what created the Sokovia Accords, which then led off to the events of Civil War. And like you mentioned, she was kind of oh, well, we don't. She's kind of like the junior member, and she'll do whatever we tell her. So she is stuck in lockdown, and Vision's supposed to be kind of keeping an eye on her. But she does ultimately end up on Team Cap, and then they kind of use her as, well, she's so powerful, so she can keep Vision at guard. Because that's the other issue. Vision is essentially indestructible Superman in the MCU version. Mm-hmm. And so they basically are the only foils for each other so everybody else can fight. Because single-handedly, either one of them can take on the entire team.
Right.
So, yeah, they kind of just used her as a prop in Civil War.
Yeah, I'm glad that she has something to do now in WandaVision. And just by necessity, by the format, she's not using her powers, really. She's not going full tilt. She's just acting out this this fever dream or whatever it ends up being, this fantasy.
Right. And so
But
then
we
we get into...
but we get to see, we get to see Lizzie. I'm going to call her Lizzie because we're friends now. We get to see Lizzie like, show off some of her range and like do some other stuff with his character. And also we get to dig into, Wanda's psyche a little bit more.
Right. So then we get into her next movies, because she's the next ones are Infinity War and Endgame. And same thing, the beginning of the movie is just her and Vision kind of going around having an affair. I mean, they're together, but like nobody knows that they're seeing each other. I mean, it is. Yeah, secret romance. Yeah. It's an 11
not cheating on anybody.
Yeah.
There you go.
But they're, Vision's on, basically Iron Man's team, and Scarlet Witch is essentially on Cap's team. So they're meeting up, in between missions and whatnot. And
well, it's not even that they're on opposite Avengers teams. She's literally a fugitive.
Yeah. So they basically use her and Vision again to get the whole set of events going, because Thanos' crew shows up to capture Vision because he has the Mind Stone. So once again, she's kind of relegated to just either keeping Vision at bay or babysitting Vision, because she's the most
she's on Vision
person.
duty.
Yeah, and so she's kind of taken out of most of Infinity War. Finally, when you get into the big fight, when Thanos and his entire army come to Wakanda, she shows up at the very end and is kind of holding Vision back for a little bit. But that's pretty much it. He still gets defeated. And then in Endgame, she's gone almost the entire movie. And then she comes back at the very end, and she was going to kill Thanos. Like, she was doing pretty solid. And then Thanos pulls in the orbital strike and gives himself some breathing room so he can get the rest of the stones and the gauntlet and go. But I do think it's interesting because Kevin Feige said, like, if anybody could beat Thanos, it's if you don't have the gauntlet and you have the time to actually fight, it's Scarlet Witch and Captain Marvel both could take on Thanos on their own. So it's really interesting. We got Elizabeth Olsen as Scarlet Witch, who's arguably the second most powerful person in the universe. And she hasn't done much in the universe.
Yeah, and I think, like I said, character-wise too, like she has a brother who died. They grew up.
We know she was an orphan.
Yeah, she was an orphan, but we don't really know anything. We just know that the two of them saw the Tony Stark bomb in their apartment, and she's had a lot of tragedy in her life, and she loves Vision.
Yeah,
and she can cook, I guess. Tell me something else about her. And the fact that her accent keeps on changing, I think, adds to that too.
And I think you could justify the accent thing. So like in Civil War specifically, like Black Widow's kind of training her, like, you need to keep your head on a swivel. What is this person doing? How many cops are there? What's going on here? You need to be able to blend in. I think she's learning how to be a spy. And so she's going to be consciously suppressing her accent, and then by the time you get into Endgame, like you mentioned, by by Infinity War and Endgame, she is a fugitive, and the easiest way to recognize her would be an accent. Like, if you hear her talking,
that's true. I hadn't heard that theory. I like that.
So like I buy that, and you notice like. And we'll get into WandaVision a little bit, but in WandaVision, when she talks about her brother, her accent comes back a little bit. So like I feel like that
was nice. I like that moment.
It.
Yeah, I guess it's just weird that they don't, that it's all left to viewer interpretation. But
I agree.
It's also nice that they don't feel the need to spoon feed everything to us,
which is why I
shouldn't complain about that.
Having her be the big launch of Phase 4 is both surprising and refreshing, because she hasn't had much.
WandaVision wasn't supposed to be the launch of Phase 4, though.
It was. It always was.
No, it wasn't. No, Black Widow was supposed to come out first.
Well, no, Black Widow isn't Phase 4. It takes place in Phase 3. It takes place before Civil War. It's just they're recognizing she should have already had another movie. Like,
no, Black Widow was the beginning of Phase 4.
No, Kevin Feige has always said that WandaVision is the true start of Phase 4. Even before all the delays were happening, he was saying WandaVision is the true start of Phase 4.
I have not heard that.
Yeah, no, he definitely because Black Widow takes place before Civil War.
I mean, I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters when it takes place. I think it's
no. The phases are supposed to be. It's tricky, but like when they look at the big timeline,
well, then like
Kevin Feige has always said Scarlet Witch.
But then Captain Marvel would be Phase 1.
Well, that's where it's tricky. It's
not tricky. Black Widow's a Phase 4 movie. It came out after Endgame, Phase 4 movie.
Yeah, but so did Spider-Man, and they called that the end of Phase 3.
Okay, well, but they said Spider-Man's the end of Phase 3.
Yeah,
like
so
it takes place right after Endgame.
Yeah, like it's technically part of Phase 4 in terms of the movies, but they're saying when you look at each phase, though, they all play a bigger part of the story. Like Captain Marvel obviously has a big part of Infinity War and Endgame, which is why it took place for various other reasons, but that's why it makes sense. The story impacted Phase 3 more. This one, Black Widow, even though it takes place, it's going to impact Phase 3 more than it. I don't know. It's weird, but Kevin Feige has said that WandaVision kicks off Phase 4 and also kicks off a spiritual trilogy, which is going to be WandaVision, Spider-Man, whatever the third movie will ultimately be called, and then Doctor Strange. Yeah,
I had an idea for the Spider-Man 3 movie, and I wish I could remember it now.
Oh, I'm interested to hear what you have to say. I'm always down to talk about Spider-Man.
Yeah, if I remember it during this episode, I'll bring it up again.
Oh, cool.
I mean, I'll tell you whenever I remember, but hopefully it's during this episode.
But I think it's really impressive that Scarlet Witch is getting the first Marvel TV show, true Marvel TV show.
Yeah.
And basically kicking off the events. And we're 3 episodes in, so we're about a third of the way through. And I got to say, the first 2 episodes I liked. I watched the first 2 episodes twice. I watched the day it came out without Katrina, and then like later on the weekend I watched with Katrina because I didn't want spoilers. And I thought they were okay. I don't think, for somebody like me who recognizes that something big, these are ultimately going to pay off, I was cool with it. But I think if you're just kind of a casual fan, I don't know if the first 2 episodes of WandaVision were strong enough to make me go, I cannot wait for episode 3.
Yeah, I agree. And as like somebody who's followed the MCU for, the decade that it's been out or whatever, 13 years now.
Yeah.
I didn't mind watching the first 2 episodes at all because I was already in the bag for them. I don't know that this TV show is made for casual viewers. I think this is made specifically for people who are like us, already in the bag.
I know a lot of people, and I've read, a lot of forums and everything where people are not impressed with this so far. And I think some people just don't get it. It's not what people were expecting. I think people were expecting every episode to kind of have little elements of what we saw in episode 3.
I think this is a thing that is only going to last a month or so until, or at least, or at the most until the rest of the episodes are out.
I
like
think
2 months.
once the episode 9 drops, and people have the whole thing, I think people are going to think this is incredible. But
I mean, not even quality wise. I just think like it'll be clear that
they'll understand what they were going for, like what it all
exactly.
meant. I think it's going to be a game changer. I think so many different things can go through. I think we've talked about we briefly talked about this on what have you been up to, but on our last episode. But I definitely think that this is going, we might be getting Mephisto. We're definitely getting, they've said this is going to set up the multiverse. There's a good chance this is going to tell us how the Fantastic Four and the X-Men are going to get their start. So I'm really excited. And I thought season 3 was fantastic. Like,
episode 3?
What did I say? Season 3?
Yeah, season 3. Yeah, I thought season 3 was really good. I think that the first year, I agree with you. The first 2 episodes are you feel a little unmoored. You're just sort of out there doing this weird fucking thing. I when I was watching it, the entire time I kept on saying, "This is insane." Like I can't believe that I'm watching these Marvel characters in black and white in 4:3 screen ratio. Yeah, just doing a sitcom from the 50s. Like
it's a
this
huge
is so
swing.
fucking weird. It's is ridiculous, and it has, it has almost no tie to the rest of the MCU.
No. And it's like
But
certain
but
things
the third
are-
episode came around, and it's like, oh, okay, I see where they're
see where
going
they're
now.
going.
I'm 100% on board. Like, this is
and there's
fucking
like
cool.
some deep cuts. Like you mentioned that, this is probably more for like people like you and me who are really into this kind of thing and are looking for like all the Easter eggs. Like, there's an Easter egg in the second episode's animated opening where you see Reaper's helmet. And then you have I'm gonna butcher her name, Tayona Paris, who plays Monica Rambeau / Geraldine. That is the daughter from Captain Marvel grown up, but I don't think your average person's gonna recognize that. And we also had the elevator, we had that helicopter in episode 2. Like, I think she crashed and it got kind of sucked into the universe, but then we had Wanda be able to expel her. So it's like, this shows that there is some level of control, but there's also some third.
Well, she's also rewound the world twice.
Yeah. So,
do we want to talk about what our theories are here? I think
Yeah,
we've
sure.
read all the same ones.
yeah. So I definitely think that Mephisto is getting set up, and Mephisto is going to be the big baddie in the second Doc Strange movie. Although they said Nightmare is going to be the villain, but I think I think it'll ultimately be Mephisto. I really think Mephisto is in this.
I agree about Mephisto. I wouldn't have said that until the second or third episode, but I wouldn't have guessed that Marvel would have chosen to use him. But it's seeming like that now.
Yeah, I definitely think
I'm curious
Mephisto
about-
for a couple of reasons. Oh, but I'll let you go first.
No, go ahead. I'm looking on the internet about Nightmare and Mephisto and Doctor Strange.
So-
I definitely heard that Nightmare's going to be in it too.
So Mephisto obviously has huge ties to a couple different people. So they've already talked about the multiverse and whatnot. And Mephisto could be easily be like an interdimensional demon kind of thing. And I think that would be a good way to explain him without him being like the literal devil. But he has they've also have explicitly said this series, Doc Strange 2, the Multiverse of Madness, and whatever Spider-Man 3 ends up being called are like spiritual sequels and a spiritual trilogy. And Mephisto also has a huge influence on Spider-Man with the One More Day / Brand New Day comic book arcs, where he essentially erased the marriage of Mary Jane and Spider-Man, or Peter Parker. And the last Spider-Man movie ended on a huge cliffhanger of his identity being revealed. And there's all these rumors that, Daredevil's in it and whatnot.
Yeah, I heard the Daredevil thing. I think he's going to defend him in court or something. Have you
think so, too.
seen the new leaked pictures from Spider-Man 3? He like goes to visit Mary Jane and it's snowing and stuff, and she's working at some store. And it looks like they haven't been talking for a while.
Yeah, I did see that. And she still has the broken piece of the Black Dahlia necklace he gave her in the last movie.
Oh, I didn't see that. That's cool.
Yeah,
there's also been like all the casting rumors about Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield coming back for cameos in this movie. And I think that those have been floating around enough that it's definitely true they're going to be in there in some way. And if they're doing multiverse
they've
stuff,
pretty much
that makes sense.
confirmed. Jamie Foxx said he was coming back and then deleted the tweet. So I think that will be what I think might happen. And like, obviously this is pure speculation, but I think what's going to happen is Spider-Man is going to be found guilty or whatever. Like, I almost said Charlie Cox, but Matt Murdock's going to do his best. And then I think Mephisto is going to show up and be like, hey, Spider-Man, like, I could fix this for you. And then Spider-Man, it'll be, because it's supposed to be like a Christmas movie. They're saying it's going to take place around Christmas. That I'm thinking it'll almost be like It's a Wonderful Life, and Spider-Man's going to see what the world is like without him, or something, and then he's going to realize he needs to fix it, and so he's going to have to go to Doctor Strange and basically go through the multiverse and fix it, and that's why we're going to see all the other Spider-Mans.
Yeah.
So
that's interesting.
I think it might be like a Wonderful Life kind of thing.
I think the Mephisto tempting somebody to fix something about the world is what's happening in WandaVision, and I don't think that they would necessarily redo that in another movie.
Yeah, I don't know.
So
I just feel like Mephisto's gonna be an arc over these 3 movies, And then
Seems like a very
also
small
think-
character to make such a big point of 3 movies.
But they've already announced that Ghost Rider is going to be coming back in some way, shape, or form. And he has ties to that. So I feel like Mephisto is a good villain to bring in. And maybe he won't be the big villain of the next, the entire phase. But I feel like he's a big enough villain and a powerful enough villain that you can put in a couple of different things. And
that feels like it's it could connect to Blade too. So I guess that
exactly.
makes sense.
So I feel like that. And I think the other thing they're doing is also setting up potentially Wanda to be the big bad for whatever the next Avengers movie is in Phase 5.
I've seen people saying that she might be the big bad in or connected to the big bad in Doctor Strange too.
Yeah, I can definitely see her being a big bad.
I think they said the end of this show leads into Doctor Strange too.
Yeah. And it would make sense because she's been the big bad in a couple things. So obviously House of M, No More Mutants. She also did the Avengers Disassembled where she made the Avengers like disappear. And then there was a bunch of different series where they like had to build everything back up. So it makes
you talk about getting
the
beginnings of the Fantastic Four. I think we're going to get the beginnings of the mutants in this.
I think so too. Yeah, I think I said X-Men and Fantastic Four, but I think Wanda's going to be the catalyst that brings a lot of the stuff. Deadpool as well. Into the universe.
Yeah. Okay. So I also read, by the way, that somebody thought that Doctor Doom was going to be the main villain in Loki, which I don't necessarily agree with. But I did see a behind the scenes picture of Owen Wilson's character Mobius M. Mobius talking to like a little girl in a church. There's a stained glass picture behind him, and the stained glass has like a deity. You would so you'd think that it was Jesus or whatever, but it's like a red face. It looks like the devil or Mephisto. And I guess Mephisto, I think it's a new thing. I just saw it today. And I guess Mephisto and Doctor Doom fuck with each other a lot. So people are making a connection there.
They do. So Doctor Doom.
There's also like there's a hooded figure in the Loki trailers. So people think that that's going to be Doctor Doom, but I think
that
it's
would
too
be
early
interesting.
For a character like that.
Yeah, and you're right. Loki and Doom do have not Loki. Mephisto and Doom kind of have a thing. Mephisto tricked Doom into going into hell to search for his mom, in a pretty major arc once. So it works. Like Mephisto is a big enough villain that could link a lot of different people.
So let's get into a quick little, bring it back to WandaVision. Let's get into what we think is actually going on here, because I have a loose theory.
All right, I want to hear your loose theory.
My loose theory is sometime after Endgame, and remember Wanda is at Tony Stark's funeral, so a little bit after that, I think that she is depressed about Vision, and something happens where she comes along Mephisto somehow, or what a character that's going to end up being Mephisto but is maybe in disguise or something, and she's sort of tempted with the opportunity to bring Vision back from the dead. So she makes this deal with the devil, and something like her entering like a coma or something happens, and Nick Fury's new squad, Sword. Yes, that's what I said, Sword.
Yeah.
Takes her to a military base, and they're in New Jersey, so I think it might be that Lehigh military base where Cap trained.
Oh yeah, where they find
got the pin particles.
The guy in the computer too in Winter Soldier.
Zola,
yeah.
So I think they're going to bring her back to that base. It's like decommissioned, but Sword and Nick Fury, know that it's there and that they won't be disturbed there. And I think she, either wakes up or from her, coma unconscious state, creates this bubble, this like sphere of influence where she ends up controlling, all of the military, all the Sword personnel that are in there. And then there's some that are outside that set up a perimeter, and that's like Jimmy Woo, and they bring in Darcy and Monica Rambeau and stuff. So
that's right.
Sword
Darcy's supposed to be in this, and she hasn't shown up yet.
So I think Sword is simultaneously observing her from the outside and also trying to, rescue her from what's happening. And I think that she's also, mind controlling a bunch of Sword agents that are in there. And that's, what are their friends' names? Discount David Schwimmer, the black dude. whoever else.
Discount David Schwimmer.
Yeah. And you know, you see all those people like acting like they're in the sitcom and playing along and stuff. And then when they start to break, they don't seem like they're in control the same way that, that Agnes does in the last episode when she's I can't remember the black dude's name. I'm sorry.
No,
when she's talking to that dude over the fence. She seems like she's kind of in control, but the neighbor dude is not so much. And also with the Mrs. Hart, the wife of the guy in the first episode, she's like freaking out when he's choking. She's not acting like she's in control. Like she's being you know, told that she needs to stay in sitcom mode or something.
I think you're close. I think somebody else like a Mephisto or somebody, you know, somebody big. Maybe it's Nightmare, and that's why it ties into Doctor Strange too. I don't know, but I think somebody big is tricking or tried to trick Wanda, but didn't realize how powerful she actually is.
Yeah, I mean that's where I was going. You didn't let me finish.
Oh, I'm sorry. We're on the same page, bud.
Yeah, I'm saying I think she's being tempted by Mephisto. I think this stuff kind of happens, and I think that she's, you know, staying in her dream world, and that there are these two outside elements that are trying to pull her in either direction. And she's maintaining a lot of control, but she's being manipulated by Mephisto or whoever this is. And I think Agnes is Agatha Harkness. I think everybody knows that at this point.
Yeah.
And I think that she's, for whatever reason, she's sort of the manifestation or, you know, lieutenant or agent or whatever of what's going to end up being Mephisto.
I also think, just to lead, you know, credence to the theory that this will bring about the X-Men or merging, you know, Deadpool, is they've pretty much confirmed that Evan Peters and Aaron Taylor Johnson will show up in this series, which both played Quicksilver. So I think this will definitely tie into the multiverse as well. Like, I think she's going to accidentally bring in Evan Peters, trying to get her brother, and she brings him in instead.
Yeah. I don't know.
Happen.
I want to believe that she's going to kick off the mutant stuff. And I know that it's probably going to happen because they've talked so much about how this ties to House of M. Like, she did a literal thing where she explains House of M, like as a PSA or whatever. Elizabeth Olsen did. Yeah. So I think it's, and they have, you know, the wine bottle that says House of whatever, and it's got a big M on it.
Yeah.
So I think that's definitely what's going on. I don't know how they're going to make the connection between mutants existing and what the show is so far. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because like if there was, you'd expect, if you knew that the outcome was that they needed to create mutants, then you'd expect the show to be about how she was experimented on or something like that.
And that's the thing, is like the hook of this show, like for people who are avid fans who watch everything, go to the midnight shows like I have, I'm gonna watch this no matter what. But I do think your average fan, who just is like your average American who like saw, you know, not every person who saw Endgame and Infinity War saw every other Marvel movie.
Right.
Like, I think most people have seen most of them, but I think a lot of people haven't seen all of them. And I do think a lot of, like, your average person.
I know people who are big Marvel fans who have not seen every movie.
Yeah. Right. So I honestly think, like, I feel like this, like, people would, if they dropped all the episodes at once, like Netflix does, I think people would be like screaming its praises. Like, they would have been able to get through, you know, 4 or 5 episodes in the first day and be like, oh my God, this is amazing. I don't know if the weekly model is the best for this show. Like, I think there are certain shows that work really well week to week.
I disagree.
I'm cool with waiting for it, but I think for your average consumer,
I think it keeps it in headlines and in conversation for 2 months, which is the best thing you can possibly do, especially during a pandemic.
I agree with you to an extent. Like, I think it works with Mandalorian. Like, Mandalorian has that hype. I don't see that this show has the same hype, though. Like, I don't think it's working as well as they thought it would.
I disagree, man. I think people are creating a ton of content trying to figure it out. I think it actually works better with mystery shows. You think about like X-Files or Twin Peaks or something, like, or Lost. People are going to be talking about the mystery for a week. I understand what you're saying. I think that's just a symptom of the first like 3-4 weeks that I'm talking about, where people are going to be confused about it. But once it starts becoming clear, I think a lot of people are going to go back and watch the other episodes.
Yeah, and this next episode we're going to be halfway through, the one that comes out. So the day that this episode's going to drop, we will have the 4th episode. And some major stuff happened in the last episode. Like Vision is starting to realize something's wrong too. Right. And that's something, as of right now, every time there's been a rewind, Vision had no idea. But at this point, we've had a kind of a rewind, and Vision is still aware that some weird shit happened. So I think this next episode's going to be a big thing. Like episode 4 is going to be the one that I think people are going to start to really engage. Like the people who are on the fence, I think this episode's going to be really people. Moments. Yeah. I think that's the biggest issue. I think there's just so many people still on the fence that they're like, I don't know what this is. Do I still want to keep doing this? I think this has that a lot more than like Mandalorian. Like, I think you're right that for the people who are into the mystery, who are really into like seeing the bigger picture, this is enough. But I think for the people who are just like, I want to be entertained, I don't know if it's interesting enough week to week so far.
I mean, I think it's just the same as going to see a sequel. I think a lot of people are not going to go see Iron Man 2 because they didn't see the first one.
Yeah. That's fair.
Then eventually they'll come around to it.
Yeah. But I'm really excited to see where it goes.
Yeah. One more question.
Yep.
What do you think Vision is?
I don't think he is real. I think he is just a projection. Mm-hmm. I don't think he's real. I think he is just a manifestation of her grief, and that's it. And I think eventually she'll realize it. Like something's going to happen. She's going to try to interact with him, and it's not going to do what she expects.
Yeah, like, I don't know.
I don't think he's real.
Yeah, I don't have my own theory on that yet, but I feel like my theory is that everyone that we see in Westview in the show is a real person, and they're being manipulated or controlled somehow. But I think they're all flesh and blood.
What if it's like Psycho, and it's just like she just has this like dead body hanging around?
What if Vision is Mephisto?
That would be interesting. That would be really interesting.
Yeah. I don't know, because I agree with you. I don't think that Vision's been brought back to life. I said this, I alluded to this earlier. I don't think we're going to see a Vision after this show.
I think so
this
either.
I think this is his farewell. I don't think that she's brought him back to life. I think if we're dealing with like multiple dimensions or the multiverse, I think it makes sense that maybe she pulled him from another universe. But that feels like it requires so much explanation with the time travel and stuff.
I think this is going to end tragically.
I feel like that's too much. Yeah, I think it's going to end tragically for sure. But yeah, I'm curious to see, what Vision really is.
Yeah.
It's the central mystery of the show. Of course I'm interested in it.
All right. Well, that's kind of our insight on the first 3 episodes and where we think it's going to go. This is just like a little bonus episode. We want to give you guys some content because we are doing a exclusive kind of review and talk about Age of Ultron, which is Wanda's first appearance in the MCU, first full experience outside of the post-credit scene at the end of Winter Soldier. So if you want to get a little bit more about Wanda and Age of Ultron, check us out on patreon.com/MDXpods. Alex, if you can give us your plugs, we'll wrap up this episode.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram at Dyslexic, DYS Alex IC, and I'm on Letterboxd and Twitter at Pulisci, PULISCI.
And you guys can check out everything that's MDX Pods related at MDXpods.com, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And like I brought up, patreon.com/MDXpods. And I do have to give a big shout out to our newest patron, Scarlett. Thank you so much. She just signed up for being a patron just a couple of days ago. It helps us out a lot, helps us pay for the website, the domain, all the movie rentals, because we don't pirate anything. We pay for everything if we can't find it for free. Because we want to support artists out there, and we hope that you guys can support us. It's only $1 a month to get all the bonus content and the early episodes. So thank you, Scarlett. Big shout out to Scarlett for supporting the show. And that's it.
Scarlett.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah, thank you.